Oh yeah. Before we get started, Larry in the back has some of our Remitly swag. So if you missed out on some of the sleep masks earlier, just feel free to see us before or after, and we're happy to give you some. Just giving everyone a minute. All right, it's 4 o'clock. Let's go. Hi. So I'm Laura and we're Remitly, and we're going to talk about building better products through CI/CD, TDD, and empathy. And as Colleen promised earlier, we are totally going to tell you what these acronyms mean. So a little bit about ourselves. I'm Laura. I'm a senior software developer with the North America product team at Remitly. Pronouns she, her, hers. I have been a software developer for 17 years, and I am approaching my 6th year with Remitly. And in addition to loving to create via software, I also like arts and crafts. And my list of technologies is probably rivaling a CVS receipt. So I'm very happy this weekend to talk with everyone and help with any projects.
Yep, mic's working. I'm Colleen. I'm an engineering manager at Remitly. I manage our treasury engineering team before I became a manager. So I've been at Remitly for 2.5 years as manager. And before that, I was a software developer for 9 years. My pronouns are also her, hers. And what are my hobbies? I don't know, hanging out with my cat, eating cheese. Those are big ones.
Yeah, so I don't know if you've heard of Remitly, but our company is looking to transform the lives of immigrants and their families by providing the most trusted financial services on the planet. One of our values is aim for the stars. We are customer-centric in everything that we do at Remitly, and that's part of what we're going to be talking about today. This is some topics we're going to be covering. I'm going to discuss continuous integration and deployment, and then I'm going to hand it over to Colleen, who's going to talk about test-driven development and incorporating empathy into development. And then at the end, we're going to open it up to any questions that you might have for us. So what is continuous integration? So this is just developing and committing code frequently, and having automated builds and tests of the code base triggered every time you do that. So why would we do this, right? So this delivers a lot of value for our customers, and that we're getting things out to them faster with higher quality. And if you think about a developer perspective, this works really great for developers because it fits nicely with agile methodology practices. You can raise your hand if you're familiar with agile. Great. Also happy to discuss that a little bit, but it is all about being able to adapt to change and to iterate frequently. And so this just breaks things down so that developers are able to deliver on problems. What does this help us to achieve? We're incrementally delivering feature. And then of course, if there's a failure of your builds and your tests, you're going to repair them quickly. We're real big fans of things turn red and they require attention. So continuous delivery. What is continuous delivery? This is a state where your application is always ready to be deployed. So what does this mean? This means any time that you merge code into the main branch, it's ready to be shipped into production. And your application builds are available to deploy into any environment at any time. And this is usually what we call a manual or a push button process. We can take this for granted many times when we go into a mature organization because it's usually available to us, right? But this is a state that you need to achieve. It's something you need to think about. And if you think about it, it's great for our customers because things are always ready for them. For our developers, you have the flexibility of being able to roll back, roll forward, and that's very important. So continuous deployment. What is continuous deployment? This is taking it to the next step, which is the automation of your builds, your tests, and then deployment into production every time you commit to main. It is important to call out that in order to reach this state, organizations need to be continuously integrating as well as also practicing continuous delivery. This sounds really scary. Why would we do this? Well, as much as we want to automate as much as we can in our testing, we're not going to catch all of the issues. And as we scale our applications in our software, manual testing doesn't catch all of the issues prior to going to production. And despite our best efforts, we're not going to match a production environment. And by failing fast, we can prevent larger outages to our customers. If we also think about it from like an empathy perspective for your coworker or your peer, have you ever, raise your hand if you've ever deployed anything into a production environment? Anybody? Oh, I see a few hands. Yes, I can tell you after 17 years, it doesn't get any less scary. And if you look in the change log, and it's not just your change that you're familiar with, but those of your peers, that can be a little scary. It's also not for every pipeline or every service. Everything doesn't need to be continuously deployed into production. It's a really great goal to get to. So when you're starting a new application or a new service, it's something that if you think about it first and start small, you can help your organization scale to get there. This is just an example of a CI/CD pipeline configuration. At Remitly, we use Jenkins as our build server. So this is a Jenkinsfile. Each of these stages you can think of, they say it's a step in the process. And so you can see some of the things we've talked about: build your code, test your code, and the package is getting it ready so that it can be deployed into an environment. This happens every time you're on your branch, so that you don't get surprised when you check into main, so that you're not all of a sudden shocked that your application can't be deployed. This is an example of a continuous deployment. You'll notice that it starts deploying into environments like pre-prod. You could stop there in your continuous delivery pipeline so that every time you merge to main, you're in your test environment. And then you'll notice there's a step where we run integration tests against pre-prod. If any of these steps fail along the way, again, your whole pipeline will fail, everything will turn red, and you'll fix it. And then we deploy into production. You'll notice that we don't have steps past there. That's because Remitly is still scaling and growing and on our journey for what we call developer operations or DevOps. It doesn't happen overnight, but some things here are, you could run integration tests against production. We also want to make sure that we write our code to be observable and monitorable, because if you're just going into production, whether it's a manual process or an automated process, you want to be able to see the health of your service so you know if you're failing or if you're healthy for your customers. And I'm going to pass it over to Colleen.
Awesome. Hello. Has anyone heard of, raise your hand if you've heard of test-driven development? Like one person. Okay. Two people. So what's test-driven development? So maybe a lot of the time when you're working on your projects, you're writing your code and then you maybe just need to write unit tests to get full credit or something. Hopefully you're writing tests to make sure that everything works. Test-driven development flips the order of these things. So you would write your tests first and then write your code to match your tests. And I like to practice TDD some of the time, not all the times. I would say there are two really, really good applications for it. Number one, when you're first starting out on a problem, writing tests that are based off of your acceptance criteria virtually guarantees that you're writing the right thing. Because otherwise, you might just start writing code and then later realize that, my code was supposed to do this thing when it got this input, instead it's doing this other thing. If you have tests already that can tell you that you can run at any point in time, you're going to catch that mistake way faster and spend less time changing, refactoring, fixing your code. The other way that I like to use it, that we'll do a little walkthrough on, is if you've already pushed code out like to production, or you know, if I guess most of you are probably still in school, so maybe it's just been it like if you're working on a group project and you've already pushed something and everybody else has picked up your changes as well, and then you find a bug. The best way, in my opinion, to know that you've fixed the problem is to write a test for it first. Make sure that you can identify in an automated way that the problem exists and then fix it. Some advantages of this are not only, again, like knowing that you've actually fixed the problem, because you're able to define for yourself what the problem was, and you're able to like make sure that it's caught. As an example, maybe you are writing a website and it uses like a little it uses a component in multiple places. If you discover a bug in one of the places that uses that component, maybe like you get like misled about what's breaking, and so then you just fix that component and then you haven't fixed it throughout the entire system. But if you can identify, okay, actually the bug is with this underlying component, and so I can write a test for like multiple places that it's used, then I'll always know that I have fixed the right thing. And the other really useful advantage of this is basically just like looking forward. When you're in a like corporate programming setting, your code is going to exist for a long time, for multiple years, and people are going to build on top of it. It's going to get changed. And so if you build in tests from the beginning, then even like people that come later and are editing your code can be confident that it works. So like I said, we're gonna go red and then go green. So we're gonna write the test to correct the behavior first, and then fix the code until the test passes. So I have a coder pad over here, super short, simple program. This just says, first of all, do you want to run tests or do you want to interact with the program? And then if we, either way, we take in a phone number, and then we output the area code for that phone number and then the rest of the number itself. So if I run this and I say I want to run tests, I have this run test function. You can see it has one test in here, uses this test phone number and make sure it matches this output. So if I want to try again, let's say we're going to interact. What's my phone number? Maybe my phone number 123-456-7890. Cool. My area code is 123. But most people don't type their phone number in as like one big string. So what if my phone number is actually 206 857-5309? Oh, my program crashed. And you can see it says invalid literal for int base 10, and it has the parentheses here. So I'm casting this number to an int, thinking about if I was a program really like using this information, probably I want to make sure that I'm only storing integers in my database. Maybe it'll go to like an automated system that places phone calls later or something. So what is a test that we could write now that would make sure we catch this error? Yes. Gotcha. I do want to make sure ultimately that things can be saved as integers. So where would I put that? Anybody else want to try? Yes.
Format number function to check if the first digit in your string is like accept it as a string first and check if it starts with a parenthesis.
Gotcha. So this is, you're getting into implementation of the fix. So what we want to start with is just the test. So yeah.
I mean, you could just write a new test that, for example, the phone number you use that made it fail would work. So what in run test, you would just do another test where you put in something.
Exactly. So I'm just gonna copy this test, paste it, and then, like she said, super easy. If I know that I want something that looks like this to pass, I can use this exact input. This is nice in like a real world setting. You might like look through your logs, find an instance of this failing, and then just pull out whatever made it fail from the logs. So, okay, I know that I want this to be 206, 857, 5309. Is it 867? It's 867, isn't it? Does anybody even get that reference? No, we're old. It's okay. There's a song. What's Jen? What is the name? Jen? Okay, it doesn't matter. Anyway, it's a good song. Okay, cool. So let's again make sure that we go red first. So we're gonna run tests again. Oops, I mistyped the word tests in this program. It's not account for that. Tests. Okay. We failed. Good. We failed with the same error in the test that we failed with in real life. So now somebody else had suggested we can, in this function, we can say phone string is just phone string dot replace. You might write nicer code in real life, but for now I'm just gonna do replace any starting parentheses with the empty string. Do the same thing for any closed parentheses. And now if I run the tests again, they pass. So I know that now I can handle phone numbers with parentheses in them. It's really as simple as that. The other thing I wanted to talk about was empathy. Remitly has our core values that we operate by, and one of them is empathetic partnership. Remitly is a fintech company, which means that our users are trusting us with their money, which is such an important thing. We want to maintain a really high bar for their trust, their security. And so we're trying to fulfill that trust and really like putting ourselves in their shoes, feeling, acknowledging how it would feel to entrust someone with your money. A lot of the times our customers are sending money so that they can support their loved ones at home. Sometimes it's for emergencies. So it's a really big deal to get it right and to make sure that we understand their pain so we can write things the best possible way for them. So some of the ways that we can make sure that our product is safe is make sure that it's well tested, make sure that the code is simple and readable, make sure that we're paying attention to security. We can respond quickly if something goes wrong. And we can do that by using something called feature flags, which is basically just a little wrapper around something that you write that says, I'm going to toggle this functionality on or off. So if we accidentally ship something and it doesn't work, we just turn it off right away. Like Laura covered, small releases are really helpful. That way, if something goes wrong, you can just roll back the last thing that you did, set it back really quickly to a state where everything was okay, and know that you're not breaking anything further. Sometimes things do break and you get paged. Have you heard of getting paged? Does that make sense? Okay, you know what that is. Cool. You know, we have our monitoring and alarming, which is an important feed in to making sure that we catch things. And then sometimes we'll get paged at 3 a.m. And if you're writing code, you can think about, how would I feel if I got paged for this at 3 a.m.? One of your coworkers is always going to be, or you are going to be on call. And so somebody is going to get paged for it. So you can think about having empathy for yourself and for your coworkers in this like groggy 3 a.m. state. What would you want your code to look like if something did go wrong? So we would probably want it to be, again, really readable and simple, make sure that it is observable. So like that, and understandable metrics, so that alarm goes off, you know exactly why it's going off. You can trace down to the error, you can fix it quickly. Again, with the small releases, maybe the first thing that you want to do before you even fix it is just roll back so that you don't need to worry about it too much. And then writing something called run books, which is basically just instructions in case something does go wrong. Yeah, and I bring this up, I will say this is something that I've been thinking about for the last like 6 months or so. Like, I get the question sometimes of, what do you love most about working at Remitly, or like, why is it a good culture? And I think the fact that we really use empathy to drive quality in everything that we do is probably my favorite thing. So strongly recommend, as you're looking for internships and jobs, and even just writing your code for the rest of the time that you're in school, to keep these things in mind. Just try to be empathetic for yourselves and your peers and your users. We are taking applications for internship that we're hosting next summer. This QR code is also available at our table. It's also available like on our career site. October 22nd is the deadline for applications. Right now, I will say we're only taking people who are graduating within the next year, so like incoming seniors or current seniors. Hopefully, eventually we will expand our program so that we can take more people, but that's what we have for now. And last thing before we open it up for questions, at Remitly, we have all those values. Actually, our top core value is customer centricity. And so we try to stay connected to our customers and end each company meeting or external meeting with a customer story or quote. So here, April says, I would highly recommend Remitly for sending money. It's fast and reliable. I send money to Kenya once or twice a month, and my people have always received it safely. It's really honestly fulfilling to know that we are making April's life better and she can trust us. And with that, Laura and I can take any questions that you might have. Yes.
By the time it's gonna be more than so I don't know if you guys. I have questions about TDD.
Mhm.
But for the example, I guess we are looking at like we know there's like an issue and then we fix it. But can we use TDD as a prevention? For instance, we know that there are multiple things on how we write, like states or countries or phone number. Can we just write like a simple code and then just to grab all of those multiples we have, problems and fixing problems and fixing.
Yeah, exactly. So the question was, can we use TDD to prevent issues in the first place? Absolutely. This kind of goes back to the scenario of before you've even started writing code, writing your tests to like your user stories. So in the case of this like phone number example, I probably would have written this test beforehand and the test that has like spaces and dashes and stuff like that. Thinking about what are our users how are they going to interact with this? Probably the user story that we would get is, take in phone numbers of like all of the like most common ways that you would input a number. So absolutely using it for prevention of errors is a great use case. Other questions? Also, we have like 6 minutes. I just want to say, like, Laura's been in the industry a long time. I've been in the industry a little less time. If you want to ask us any questions that are more kind of general, feel free to do that too. Yes. The question was, what project management software does Remitly use? We primarily use Jira. That's just what we use. I would say that there's no like project management software that's like better or worse than any other. It's just how you use it. But yeah, that's what we use.
So there might be something.
I think that's been there a while. Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned about agile thought. Can you go over that? That's just a quick rundown.
Sure, I can go over that a little bit. Yeah, so at Remitly, we practice, well, across our teams, we try to practice the same agile methodologies. You could probably have a whole nother 3 or 4 talks just on agile. But at Remitly, we have 2-week sprint cycles. That's your development time. And within those 2 weeks, we have deliverables that we deliver throughout the entire 2-week cycle. So it's not like, your project's due on Friday, so you do it, on Friday morning or something like that. We're delivering throughout the entire agile cycle. And part of that is continually evaluating where you are and then making adjustments, because your user stories will not always cover the full set of use cases, because we're humans, right? So the idea with being agile is that you can adapt and change, and that you're continuously accepting and responding to feedback from your stakeholders. Oh, the question was if we follow specifically Scrum or Kanban. So I would say at Remitly, we do both, and it depends on which team you're on. So we try to adapt and work for what works best for teams rather than being prescriptive. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Can you raise your hand if you learned something during this talk or if it was useful? Yes. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure we're, helping, not just rambling at you. Cool. Yeah, like I said, we're gonna be at our booth. Feel free to come find us. I'm gonna head also to the Technica chat that's in like half an hour. So if anybody's there, I'll see you there as well.
And if you didn't get swag, scan later, whatever.
And Larry has swag.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for attending, and thank you for those online. We'll see you in the Slack channels.